Be honest, have you ever traced a drawing and then felt just a little bit guilty about it? Some artists swear by tracing and others say it's a crutch. So what's the truth? And what's going to be best for you? Let's have a good old chat about all of these things. And then by the end, I will have some extra resources for you. I've got something for those of you who like the idea of tracing, and I've got something else for those of you who think you might like to consider what the next step might be if you want to start your drawing adventure. So the first big question is whether or not tracing is actually cheating. That always makes me chuckle. Cheating who exactly? There's no art police. And if you're going to say if you're only cheating yourself, well, that's the most annoying thing that people could ever say to you, isn't it? Now, does it take more skill to draw freehand rather than to trace? Of course, more skill and more time. So do real artists trace? They sure do. Of course, that also begs the question of what is a real artist? For the purposes of our discussion, let's say we mean professional artists. And of course, they definitely do. In fact, for some, it's a necessity. An artist that takes portrait commissions is quite likely to trace to ensure that they get accurate proportions of their subject. In portraits, it's exacting proportions that give you a good likeness of a person or a pet. Commissioned artists have to be able to achieve this and do it efficiently enough to make the process affordable and sustainable. Artists that paint really large-scale murals will often use a projector so that they can trace their subject onto the wall without creating distortions. Quite important if you want to get paid for your mural, one assumes. Now, just in case you're thinking this is laziness born of modern technology, let's not forget the good old camera obscura. We know this was used by artists in the 1600s. It was an early iteration of the projector, but even that was probably not its first instance. There are some that theorize that prior to 500 BC, Paleolithic cave paintings were inspired by camera obscura effects achieved by holes in tents or screens made of animal hide. So tracing's not a new idea or a lazy one. It just serves a purpose. We've already seen two of the most important advantages of tracing: speed and accuracy. If you're wanting to get on with the fun and relaxation to be had from watercolour painting, then tracing is a very viable option to get you started. In fact, I offer a free line drawings guide, and I'll pop links to that in the description below in case it's useful to you. Speed and accuracy are not the only advantages though. I believe that even if you trace, you're starting to train your brain and your hand in some small way. As you trace, you're learning to pick out the edges of your subject. There is value in this alone. Learning to see and create edges is an important step in your drawing and painting journey. As you trace a line around an edge that you see, you're starting to develop a little muscle memory. Your hand is practicing drawing flowing lines and getting a feel for the effect of varying pressure on the quality of a line. Even if you think you can't draw, I don't think you should let that put you off trying your hand at painting if that's something you think you'd like to do. Everybody starts somewhere. In fact, the education gurus have a concept called scaffolding, which really recognizes the fact that where we are and where we want to be can be quite far apart, and that we can't just automatically jump from one place to the next. So in order to find our way there, we can construct some sort of scaffolding to help us on our way. And when it comes to drawing and painting, tracing is one such tool that you could use as a way of scaffolding your way towards your end goal. So if you feel you need to trace, then please do it and feel no shame about it. But please don't think that you can't draw or that you've left it too late to learn. If that's what you're thinking, I've got the perfect little mini workshop for you. It's completely free and it's going to walk you through a little test you can take to see if you've got what it takes to learn to draw whatever stage you are in your life. Bear in mind that for a beginner, everything is new, so there is a lot to learn. There's plenty more to drawing in terms of rendering an image, whether that's in the drawing medium or in another medium like paint. So when you start painting what you've traced, you're still learning. But if you don't ever let yourself get to that point because you don't want to trace, then you may be depriving yourself of that opportunity altogether. Now, if I'm making it sound like tracing is so marvelous, please don't start thinking there are no disadvantages to it at all. As I say, I think it serves a purpose. But it can also become a crutch, and I don't think you want to become reliant. One can get into the habit of tracing and then become more and more reluctant to even attempt the drawing. Please don't let that happen to you, because drawing is so much fun. If you only trace, then you're limiting yourself to be only able to paint a particular photo. That might even limit the size you're able to work in. It's also much better to be able to confidently add things in and take them out to make a unique composition of your own. And of course, there's drawing from real life. You definitely want to be able to do that. Tracing won't get you there. I also think there's something of a stiffness to a traced line. When you draw a line freehand, it takes on a much more expressive quality. Your skill at rendering may be able to make up for this shortcoming of tracing, but I tend to feel that there's usually something clunky and stilted about a traced line. And it's a wonderful thing to feel complete ownership of your creation. To know that you took a blank page and transformed it into a lovely painting with only your two hands is a very satisfying feeling. Yes, you might feel almost as good if you traced it, but drawing is a joy all of its own. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Drawing isn't something your painting absolutely needs you to be able to do, but it is something that would be very nice for you to be able to do. There is, however, something that your painting absolutely needs, just one thing. And I think it's so important that I made a whole video all about it. I'm going to pop it up on the screen so you can watch that one next.